Hey everyone, and welcome to a special presentation of Dead Mall Walking. Or for today only, Undead Mall Walking. Malls have been used to great effect in horror and horror-adjacent media for years now. Shopping Mall, The Final Destination, Dawn of the Dead, original and remake, as well as video games like The Last of Us Left Behind and Death Stranding. And I recently came across, but haven't yet watched, an incredible looking grindhouse movie called Phantom of the Mall: Eric's Revenge. Despite all that, when I tried to find real haunted malls to profile for Halloween, I struggled. But one notable exception could be Gwinnett Place Mall. Stranger Things' Finn Wolfhard referenced speculation about Gwinnett Place Mall being haunted when he said this to Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show.
Every time we'd be in there, it'd be fun, and then we'd all just kind of look at each other and be like, something wrong with this mall.
Something wrong with this mall. Something wrong with this mall.
And I'm inclined to agree with him. I found something about the mall extremely unsettling when I visited in 2018. This endlessly flickering light at the end of an empty corridor, which is visible in virtually every video about the mall, is particularly creepy. But it's far more likely that the weird vibe the mall had is down to the real-life murder of Georgia State student Silling Man in the food court, which I made a video about earlier this year, than any weird paranormal activity. Thanks again to Ace's Adventures in Underground Retail for letting me use some of their footage in that video. So I continued my search for a haunted mall, and a name that cropped up time and time again was Greenwood Mall in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I knew I recognised the name, but only realised later that not only had I already been to the mall, but actually also had some footage of it that I'd never used. Before I started this channel in earnest, I attempted to film a few malls on a bootleg $40 GoPro attached to a backpack with a rip tie. Let's just say that the results weren't exactly stellar, but throw a Super 8 filter on them and I think it'll work for a video like this. So let's get into Greenwood Mall. According to legend, the body of an unidentified man was found in a stolen truck in the parking lot back in 1996. I struggled to find any written records or news stories about the incident, that search made even more difficult by the fact that there was a mass shooting in the similarly named Greenwood Park Mall this year. But rumour has it that if you leave your car in the mall parking lot late at night, you might return to find a zombie-like figure sitting in it when you come back. Supposedly, this occurrence is common enough that security and police refer to these incidents as another case of the sleeper. Whenever police arrive on the scene, the car is empty. Here's an experience that someone supposedly local to the area posted on Fandom. They claim to have seen the sleeper in their car at 4:30 in the morning after leaving the mall. I went to look around because there was no way in hell I would get in if there was a dead man in my car, and sure enough, there was. His face was disfigured, there was also what appeared to be blood in his mouth. No eyes. He was just sitting there sleeping, it seemed. Sure was the scariest night of my life, but I'd love to see him again. I'd have to assume that the card store they're talking about is Anne's Hallmark shop, which is opposite Belk. That, along with the mention of coyotes that sometimes frequent Bowling Green, are pretty specific details to add, which makes me think there's at least a grain of truth to their story as far as them working at the mall goes. But what card shop has their employees working until 5 AM? And why was their friend at Buffalo Wild Wings more than 6 hours before it opened? As interesting as their story may be, some parts of it don't exactly add up. Others have reported an oil slick in the parking lot that refuses to wash away, where the sleeper was originally parked, with some saying that it looks like a face. I've read a few posts suggesting that it's near Belk, so, based on its proximity, I wonder if this could be the stain in question. I couldn't find any pictures of the oil stain online. Using Google Maps, we can jump back from 2022 to July 2019. But there's a car occupying the space in question in all images before that. Is that the same oil stain 3 years earlier? Or just a huge coincidence? I'll let you be the judge of that. Speaking of coincidences, in one of the 3 clips of the mall I recorded on my iPhone, before the days when I understood the value of B-roll, you can see something that looks like an oil slick. Stick around until the end of the video and I'll add a freeze frame on it so you can check it out for yourself. I'm naturally skeptical about these things, so I'm not suggesting that there's any significance to me filming an oily stain before I pan up to the logo of the mall. I don't even think I took that footage at the entrance where the stain is supposed to be. But still, it's an interesting coincidence. When digging around for haunted malls, I found this clip from Brazil, taken at 2 AM in Caruaro's Shopping Difusora back in 2018. The clip reportedly shows a security guard filming the ghost of a young girl climbing up an escalator. Sadly, as good an acting job as the security guard does, the clip was later debunked as a viral marketing stunt to promote a new haunted house attraction in the mall. Unless that's just what they want us to think. There's a legitimate case for calling Greenwood Mall America's most haunted mall. Although honourable mentions go to the poltergeists in the restrooms of Cherryvale Mall in Rockford, Illinois, spectral wolves in Anchorage, Alaska's Diamond Center, and Finger Lakes Mall in Auburn, New York, which, at least at one point, ran ghost hunts after the mall had closed. I'd love to hear if you have any paranormal stories of your own in the comments. But despite all that, there aren't really any reported cases of unexplained or supernatural activity inside Greenwood Mall. Or many other malls for that matter. And I'm not exactly sure what to make of that, since anyone who's interested in dead malls will tell you that there are plenty out there with some serious creep factor. And although malls have been subject to countless real-world horrors, carjackings, gun crime, even murder, they seem to have at least some degree of immunity to paranormal activity. No wonder the characters of Dawn of the Dead thought it was the safest place to go. I guess there could be a few reasons why that's the case. Malls aren't easily accessible after dark, and they usually have plenty of people around. But I can't help but wonder if we're just hesitant to conflate the supernatural with somewhere that felt so safe and comforting when we were younger. We don't see ghosts or monsters in the mall because we don't want to. I guess Hollywood directors and video game producers didn't get that memo. Let's round things out by checking out that oil spill from my footage that I mentioned earlier. Look close enough, and just maybe you'll see a face. Or maybe, to misquote Freud, sometimes a spill is just a spill. Until next time, goodbye from the not-so-haunted halls of Greenwood Mall.